Becky Hammon does not have a problem calling out the Indiana Fever, and I actually think that this series between the Fever and the Aces is going to be a spicy one. However, I think that the Fever can win. They are 3 wins away from going to the WNBA Finals. That's it.
Did the Indiana Fever actually lose Game 5? Or were they squeezed out by a whistle that just wouldn't let them finish the job? That's not clickbait. That's the question fans were arguing before the confetti even hit the floor. Think about how the night unfolded. Aaliyah Boston fouls out on a rebound with the season hanging by a thread. Kelsey Mitchell is cooking, then cramping so hard she's rushed out for treatment. Odyssey Sims? She shrugs off contact, drops 27, and drags Indiana into overtime by pure will. And still, somehow, the rhythm of the game kept tilting one way. Vegas advances, 107-98, but the debate didn't end with the horn. It started there. From the start of this series, Indiana wasn't just wrestling with a 2-time champion. They were wrestling with momentum that never felt fully theirs. Anytime the Fever stacked stops, it seemed a whistle would pop that balloon. By the time we got to Game 3 and 4, fans weren't whispering. They were posting, clipping, charting, and asking why the foul shots and the flow kept leaning the wrong direction.
All right, here we are, Game 5 of the WNBA playoffs. It's a road test for the Indiana Fever. They are in Las Vegas for Game 5 Tuesday night.
When officiating becomes the conversation in a playoff series, you already know something's gone off the rails. It wasn't one blown call, it was the weight of them. And that weight sat squarely on Indiana's chest as they kept clawing to a decisive Game 5. Even national outlets admitted officiating loomed over the matchups. Never a great sign when the basketball is this good. Winner take all. On the road, short rotation, and the Fever still came out believing. The problem? Every inch they gained seemed to come with a receipt. First, the touch stuff. A soft moving screen on Boston that killed an early rhythm. Then a charged offset call that made it feel like standing your ground wasn't allowed if your name wasn't on the right jersey. Plays like that don't just cost a possession. They bleed confidence from the actions you want to run.
Yeah, well, I don't know about frustrations boiling over as more to just like making a point. Caitlin says she got me though, so.
One more than that.
She just got a bonus.
Even the league recap reads like a tug of war that never let go. Vegas stars filling the box score, Indiana's bench soldiers keeping them within punching distance, and momentum shifting every 60 seconds. You could feel it building toward a single moment, like the game wanted a judge's decision instead of a knockout. Here it is, final 30 seconds of regulation, tie game, rebound in the air, season on the line. Boston fights for position, there's contact, the whistle blasts, and it's her 6th. Indiana challenges, praying for logic to win. Call stands. Jackie Young hits the free throws. Advantage aces. If you want to know why Fever fans left horse, it's not just because the call went against them. It's the type of call. A loose ball rebound in traffic, minimal displacement, both players going up. That's the kind of play fans expect to see decided by athletes, not a horn.
I'd like to take a second to congratulate Indiana. They would not go away. They just would not go away. The resiliency of her group, I mean, they went through a lot of adversity this year. And for Steph to keep everybody on board and prayers up for Kelsey. I don't know her situation.
The broadcast's live blog even flagged it in real time. Not a ton of contact, but mid-air players get protected, which is fair on paper and infuriating in context. It's the exact kind of decision that turns "we lost" into "we weren't allowed to win." Before all of that, Kelsey Mitchell was the spark you plan your whole offense around. 15 points by the third, perfect from deep, and scaring every hedge with her first step. Then the body revolts, extreme lower body cramping. She's helped off, gets fluids, and is released later that night with an optimistic recovery note. The building energy Indiana had found, gone in a minute. That could have been the excuse to fold. Instead, Odyssey Sims looked at the scoreboard and decided no one was turning out the lights. 27 points, 6 dimes, and a dozen sequences where she simply beat her defender to a spot and finished anyway.
I mean, it feels like a physical game every game. Feels like it's been a physical season. But yes, I think, I feel like I've been on the ground a little bit more this series so far. But we just keep getting back up, so that's all you can really say.
She tied it late in regulation and sent an entire arena into a full-body gasp. It was grit. It was stubbornness. and it kept the Fever alive long enough for the next big whistle to matter. The final says Aces 107, Fever 98 in overtime. That's what the playoff archive will show. Dig a layer deeper and the stats tell a different part of the story. Indiana whistled for 25 fouls to Vegas's 20. The Fever win the glass by plus 19, a massive gap. Yet the flow of free throws never feels equal to the beating happening inside. They also cough up a mountain of turnovers, which you can trace to two things: fatigue from a 7-player reality and a constant fear of contact becoming a whistle.
Well, it's hard for us to find flow when there's a foul called every 10 seconds. I mean, it just really is. And when they're at the free throw line, we can't get up and down the floor. And that's a challenge. They were much more aggressive and physical defensively.
Meanwhile, Aja Wilson is every bit an MVP with 35, Jackie Young an engine with 32, and Chelsea Gray the closer in overtime. None of this discounts how great Vegas played. It just proves how small the margin was even with all that star power. Indiana still forced overtime. That alone says the effort was bigger than the box score. Lexie Hull's night doesn't need a violin soundtrack to matter. She plays through a back issue, piles up winning plays, and then, after everything, steps in front of cameras and gives the most honest, grounded summary of the entire year. Pride in the fight, pain in the ending, and a belief that this group didn't crack even when their stars were missing.
3 wins. All they need is to get 3 wins before the Aces gets 3 wins. And if you put it in that perspective, I think they have what it takes to get it done. Now, Becky also said that the Fever haven't seen the true Aces.
There's no meltdown, no excuse tour, just a calm, steady voice that says, "We were built for this, and we aren't going anywhere." For a fan base that felt the floor tilt all series, that matters. It gives shape to the frustration. We did our part. We'll do it again. If you wanted a leader's tone without the headline-chasing bite, Lexie nailed it. Let's talk future, because this is where Indiana quietly won. Without Caitlin Clark, with a rotation patched together by necessity, the Fever pushed a dynasty to the edge in a deciding game on the road. That's currency. That's experience you cannot fake.
But we're right there. So I think we can head into Sunday's game with a little bit of confidence, knowing we can compete against anybody.
Career high for you tonight. How'd that first half feel, especially with 18 and just 20 minutes of play?
I mean, it obviously feels good, I think. For me, just playing with confidence. We're missing people, so everyone's got to do a little bit extra.
Aaliyah Boston learned what it feels like to be officiated like a star in a hostile building and still keep producing. Kelsey Mitchell proved, again, that her shot-making bends playoff defenses. Odyssey Sims showed the league that pressure doesn't shrink her, it sharpens her. Lexie Hull emerged as a voice, not just a role player. Add a healthy Clark back into that? The geometry of the court changes instantly. More space for Boston on the block, easier downhill paths for Mitchell, cleaner spot-ups for everyone who defends and cuts with purpose. The team recap said it plainly. This was a remarkable run, and it didn't happen by accident. The Fever are not a feel-good story. They're a problem you have to solve, fast. So, did the officiating decide the series? That's where things get tricky. You can't claim every whistle was malicious. That's lazy. But you can point to a trend fans recognized and media tracked. Calls and no calls that changed rhythm, energy, and rotations. You can point to a last-minute whistle on a 50-50 rebound that took an all-star off the floor with a ticket to the finals in play. You can point to the way physical defense was refereed differently depending on the jersey. And in a league with this much talent, inconsistency is just a polite word for chaos. The fix isn't outrage, it's transparency and consistency. Publish last 2-minute reports. Expand the types of endgame plays that are reviewable. Make clear points of emphasis before the postseason starts. If you want fans to stop using the word rigged, give them a process to trust. Right now, too much of it feels like a coin flip. Credit where it's due. Championship teams survive nights like this because their stars deliver when the possession map is on fire. Aja was relentless. Jackie was surgical.
But nobody wants to see anybody carried off the court like that, ever. So just hats off to them. I thought they did an unbelievable job.
And Gray turned overtime into her personal clinic. The Aces deserve their finals berth. But two things can be true at once. Vegas was brilliant, and Indiana had to skate uphill against calls that bent the oxygen in the building. The scoreboard ends one story. The tape starts another. If you're asking whether the Fever lost or got robbed, The honest answer is, they proved they can win at this level, and they showed exactly how thin the line is when whistles wobble. Here's where we land. The Fever didn't just push a dynasty, they pushed the conversation about how playoff basketball is supposed to feel. They were out there with 7 healthy bodies, still winning the glass, still forcing overtime, still making an arena sweat, until a final minute whistle took their anchor away. That's the kind of sequence that lingers in a fan base and in a locker room. If you're Indiana, you bottle the pride and the film. If you're the league, you fix the trust. And if you're everyone else, you start preparing for a version of the Fever that returns with a healthy Clark, a scarred in a good way Boston, a mission-minded Mitchell, and a locker room that already tasted the pressure without blinking. Was it a loss? On paper, yes. But on vibe, intent, and message sent to the rest of the W, it felt like a reveal. Indiana's window didn't open down the road. It just cracked open now. Quick question for you. Should the WNBA make all loose ball fouls in the final minute automatically reviewable, especially those that disqualify a player? And if not, what's the standard you trust? Drop your take below. Also, if you think Boston's 6th should have been a play-on, type, "Let them decide it." If you think the call was correct by rule, type, "Protect the air." Let's see where the tribe stands.